Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Pierre Mantovani, and I am a lead water specialist with the World Bank. Together with UNICEF and the Palestinian Water Authority, PWA, the World Bank convenes this session entitled Turbulent Waters, Water Security and Peace in the West Bank and Gaza. I hope I'm still connected. At any rate, along with other partners, the World Bank provides technical and financial support to the Palestinian Authority, in particular for developing the Palestinian water sector. And UNICEF, of course, is also a key development partner for the Palestine. And they're currently, of course, involved in the emergency response on the ground in Gaza. We thank SEWE and the World Water Week for hosting this session on the complex stakes of water in conflict. So our session today aims at raising international awareness on the alarming degradation of access to water in the West Bank and Gaza in the context of occupation, conflict, and shared water resources. To that effect, the session gives voice to Palestinian operators and Palestinian officials in the water sector to share their accounts of various facets of the crisis, whether conflict or occupation related, along with needs and proposals for improvement. This session also aims to be a call for increased support and cooperation by all parties. A word about the structure of the session. We have three windows. In a first window, we'll cover an overview of the water situation in West Bank and Gaza, along with factors that have restricted the development of the water sector so far. This will be covered by Dr. Muaz Abu Sada, who's a special technical advisor with PWA. A second window opens on the harsh field realities on questions of water and sanitation access, starting with Gaza, and where Mr. Sadi Ali, PWA director based in Gaza, will share the current situation and struggle of operating what is left of the water and sanitation system. And he will be doing so on behalf of the local utility, the coastal municipality's water utility. At that point, we're also going to be presenting a video prepared by UNICEF on the current situation, the social impacts, the emergency response as it relates in particular to water and sanitation. A third view from the field comes from the city of Hebron, the second largest city on the West Bank, where the water situation is chronically deficient, and the daily operating struggle will be reported to us by Rashid Said, who's the Director of Water and Wastewater Technical Manager for the Hebron municipality. A third and final window in this session addresses perspective. In particular, we will have a recorded speech by Minister Gunaim, who's the head of the PWA, and who will share the vision and the current response of PWA given the current situation. This will be followed by comments by Madame Jean Gao, Special Representative of UNICEF for Palestine, and then by Stefan Emblatt, who is the World Bank Country Director for West Bank and Gaza. So the other participants, the other attendees, everybody is muted, but you have chances to provide comments and questions in the chat box, so don't hesitate. And time permitting, some of the questions will be raised to the panelists, or they will tentatively be answered online. There is a translation in Arabic for those who wish. Given the many connections from remote locations with vagaries of internet and telecoms, please, we apologize in advance for any glitches. Let me, before I introduce the first speaker, let me remind us that The growing water insecurity of the Palestinian people cannot be ignored. But while we share the anguish and caused by the hostilities since October in particular, we as water professionals must recognize that the forces, the complexity, the asymmetry of the Middle East conflict far exceeds our competence and role. And in that vein, this session can only raise awareness of the situation and what is needed to resolve it, in hope that a vision for necessary improvements may emerge as an investment in peace building. We therefore wish for this session to focus on sharing facts and proposal while avoiding as much as possible conflict rhetoric. So let me turn it over to our first speaker, and Dr. Muaz Abusadeh, to give us an overview of the current situation of water in West Bank and Gaza and factors contributing to it. Welcome.
Hello, thank you, Pierre. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to address today the critical water situation in Palestine and the challenges facing the sector. Hoping that this conference will contribute in improving the situation and supporting the Palestinians in securing their water rights. Palestine today mainly relies on two sources of water supply. The first is the local sources from groundwater wells, springs, and some desalination plants in Gaza Strip, while the second source is the purchased water from Israel, which is limited to meet non-agricultural needs. In 2023, in the West Bank, the amount of water available for non-agricultural use was 142 million cubic meters, 43 of which comes from local sources. However, due to demographic and political factors, as well as the geographical distribution of the water sources, there is a large disparity in the per capita water consumption between different governorates, where it varies between more than 1 liter per capita per day in the northwest governorates to less than 50 liter per capita per day in the southern governorates of the West Bank. The water gap in 2023 was 50 million cubic meter. This gap is mostly concentrated in the governorates that depends mainly on purchased water sources from the Israeli side, especially in Hebrew governorate, south of the West Bank. The consumption figures in this year, or in the last year, shows that about 87% of citizens receive less than 100 liters per capita per day, 12% of which receiving less than 50 liters per capita per day. This is numbers, this is the facts. Before the current war in Gaza, Gaza depends on Mikrot for 20% of its water supply, with the remaining 80% sourced locally, primarily from the coastal aquifer. Unfortunately, the aquifer is severely depleted, causing the salinity to rise to such an extent that it is no longer suitable for human use. As a result, per capita freshwater availability is extremely low, at just 15 liters per day, forcing Gaza people to use non-potable water to meet their water needs. Despite the historical abundance of water in Palestine, known for its wetlands and springs, Israel, before its establishment, has forced in exploiting water resources, draining wetlands, and controlling water resources. This continued after 1948 with the construction of the National Water Company, carrier from the Lake of Tiberias to the Negev Desert, and establishment of the Mikrot Company, which took over water management and control. After occupying the West Bank and Gaza Strip in 1967, Israel seized full control of all water sources and prevented Palestinians from developing any natural resources. At the same time, Israel began depleting natural aquifers through drilling deep wells, leading to drying up of many natural springs. By the late 80s and 90s, Israel began promoting the idea of water scarcity and drought without acknowledging its depletion of aquifers and drying up the Jordan River. Starting from the 21st century, Israel shifted to desalination in the shore of the Mediterranean Sea as an alternative solution to water scarcity problem, and has continued to deny Palestinians' right to use their natural sources. Turning to Oslo Accords, the water file was postponed along with other important files to the final status negotiations. The Oslo Accords Annex 40 addressed water-related issues for a 5-year period, during which a final status agreement was supposed to be reached. One of the most significant points in the Annex 40 was the establishment of the Joint Water Committee, which was tasked with jointly managing water issues between the two sides, including water supply, hydrology, wastewater, pricing, infrastructure, and any other emerging issue. Although the Joint Water Committee was considered to be the sole reference for water issues, it has often hindered the development of water sector, being used as a tool for fruitless negotiation on many unresolved issues. The Joint Water Committee work has also been interrupted for months and sometimes years due to many wars in Gaza, West Bank incursions, and some other political events. For clarification, I would like to give you 2 examples showing how the Article 40 has been violated. The first example, the Annex stipulated the need to develop Palestinian water sources to increase abstractions from 118 million cubic meter in 1995 to 196, or almost 200 million cubic meter over the next 5 years, 2000, which has not been achieved to date. Palestinian abstractions from natural resources and aquifers remain limited due to Israeli abstractions not exceeding 145 only annually. And another important example, an issue that has been was not addressed in the Article 40, is the transboundary wastewater issue. While the Annex referred to environmental and pollution issues in general, it didn't address mechanisms for dealing with this specific problem. As a result, Israel has been deducting a large sums of Palestinian clearance revenues for over a decade under the pretext of treating transboundary wastewater without an agreement mechanism, and overestimating the wastewater volumes and imposing high treatment costs, along with deducting large sums to develop treatment facilities on their site. In 2023, these deductions reached to 130 million shekels, which is equivalent to around $36 US. Despite all these challenges and obstacles, the BWA has continued to work on developing water and wastewater sectors in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. It strives to ensure water access for all Palestinian people, achieve equitable distribution within the limited available infrastructure and water sources, increase available water quantities through optimal operation and rehabilitation of groundwater wells. Institutionally, BWA is engaged in implementing the water sector reform, which includes the establishment of national water company, regional water utilities, and strengthening the technical and technological capacities of the related staff. Finally, I would like to highlight that the BWA is developing an ambitious strategic plan. Therefore, BWA urges the international community to support Palestinians in obtaining its natural water rights by providing political, financial, and technical supports, which include rebuilding and repairing the water infrastructure and institutions in Gaza and the West Bank, which were severely damaged as a result of the recent war. Specifically, BWA urges the international community to provide an urgent support in the following issues. First, reviewing the mechanisms of the Joint Water Committee work, which includes actively participating in the technical discussions instead of being used as a tool to set obstacles in obtaining approvals for Palestinian requests. Second, ending the manipulation of water quantities supplied to the Palestinian site and ensuring that the Israeli settlements do not receive priority in supply, as often occurs during the summer season each year. Third, pressure the Israeli side to stop the unfair deductions under the pretext of treating transboundary wastewater and contributing to finding a mechanism that ensures fair calculation of the treatment costs. 4. Pressure the Israeli side to complete the understanding on transboundary wastewater projects, especially the project to establish Tulkarem wastewater treatment plant and transfer treated wastewater to the Jordan Valley and other similar projects. 5. Provide financial and technical support to develop wastewater treatment, transfer of the treated wastewater and reuse master plan. 6. Provide financial, technical, and political support to implement PWA's strategic plans, especially projects that have a direct relationship with the Israeli side, including studies, designs, and implementation. 7. Support the efforts of the PWA for institutional reform, including the establishment of water utilities and national water company in an effective manner and in accordance with Water Law number 14 of 2014. Finally, 8. Provide technical support to the staff working in the water sector, especially the youth, through training and capacity building in various fields, including advanced technology, wastewater treatment and transfer, desalination, modeling, and management of the water services. Thank you for your attendance. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Muaz Abu Sada. Thank you for your intervention. We have heard a lot. Thank you also for keeping the time. And we have heard a lot. We don't have questions in the chat box yet for you, but I summarize that we've heard about the current situation of water access for Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza, and the imbalance of the access to water, the scarcity of water suffered by Palestinian society, and this in a context of shared watershed with Israelis. Second, we've also heard your overview of the current shared governance arrangements, essentially through the Joint Water Committee, and how this committee, through the years, may not have served the Palestinian side well. And we understand the asymmetry of the positions and the influence of the committee. Third, you have proposed, or actually you have indicated that the Palestinian Water Authority is driving a certain number of reforms to gain efficiency in the Palestinian water sector to make the best of what you have at this point. And finally, we heard a number of needs requests, the list that you gave us on items on which you seek, PWA may seek international support. Some of the questions requiring, or most of the questions require, of course, the goodwill of the Israeli party to make things change and improve for the region. So, since we do not have questions and we don't have to take opportunity to take live questions other than from the chat, we'll take them later. So if audience has questions, throw them to the chat, we'll filter and ask them back to Dr. Muaz. In the meanwhile, let me jump to the second window, which is one which looks at water emergencies on the field in West Bank and Gaza, and starting with Gaza. So our next speaker is Sadi Ali, Dr. Sadi Ali, who is a PWA director in Gaza. And he speaks on behalf of the Gaza local water sanitation utility, which is the coastal municipalities water utility, which is currently doing miracles to sustain service under very, very challenging conflict situation. So, Dr. Sadi, are you there? And can you join us? Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm not able to display my video. I missed this opportunity. My dear Pierre, thank you very much for this excellent introduction. And hello? I don't hear you, Pierre.
Sadi, please go ahead. You have 6 minutes, and please update us on the Gaza.
Okay. Before the war, the Palestinian Water Authority, with partners, service providers, and with the full support from the international community, managed to build a huge and vast infrastructure in both in water and wastewater. In the water, we managed to build and operate 3 desalination plants with a total capacity of 36,000 cubic meters. We managed, in the wastewater, we managed to build 3 wastewater treatment plants with total capacity more than 100,000 cubic meters. And those facilities, they were really good from infrastructure point of view, from operational point of view, and they were serving the population. In the sanitation, up to 80% were served. For the water, more than 99% they were served. And we were very much close to prevent the deterioration of the aquifer by introducing the Gaza Central Desalination Plant and also importing more quantities from the Israeli side. And we built the infrastructure, reservoirs, bulk reservoirs, distribution network, and we were in the, before, just the war came when we were just to launch the construction of the main carrier pipeline. And we were already started the reconfiguration of the system in the south, Rafah and Khan Yunis. We completed the reconfiguration of the water system in the middle area, and we were very close to launch the infrastructure for the North Gaza and Gaza City. So we were very much close to really to have an important and vital infrastructure serving our more than 2.5 million people. Unfortunately, the war came and we lost more than 50% of this infrastructure. The 3 wastewater treatment plants, they're out of service now. The North Gaza desalination plant out of service. More than 50% of the pumping station and the water wells, they are totally damaged. So you can imagine the impact of this on the population. This actually, during the war, as I said, we have either most of the infrastructure of the water was either completely or severely damaged, more than 30% of the facility inaccessible, or we are not able to assist because we are not able to see what have been damaged. More than 90% of the water they were out of service, specifically in the first 3 months during the war, due to the electricity cut-off and the fuel shortage and difficulties in operation and maintenance is due to the deterioration of the security situation. Meteorite water also has been stopped in the 3 connections, and more than 50% of the Gaza wells, they were also out of service. Moreover, the sewage was flowing to those low depreciation ponds and making a threat of the environment and health. So this resulted that people can only receive up to 3 liters per day in the beginning. And this also resulted in increasing the waterborne infections and diseases, and increasing the flood risk, specifically in low depreciation areas where we have the main pumping station. Now, how we can handle this? Specifically, there is a continuous war, there is a continuous displacement. More than 1.5 million people, they displaced many times under bombing. And you can imagine how the situation how you can serve those peoples. They are surrounded with solid waste. They are surrounded, just living in the septic tanks flowing to their camps, and water is really lacking the suitable water for drinking and other things. However, the Palestinian Water Authority, with full cooperation with the utility and the international NGOs and UN agency and the donors, we managed to at least to reactivate the two connection in Mekarot for the south and the middle, just November 2023, and we managed to restore the Mekarot connection for the north by 1st of May 2024. And also we managed to keep the operation of the two STLVs, the two desalination plant in the south and the middle, with a limited capacity up to 5,500. And this is because under the international pressure, the community pressure, UN agencies, we managed to allow for limited quantity of fuel to still go on to feed those critical facilities. So as part of this immediate intervention, PWA with the full coordination and with the utility in the ground, and we managed to still provide the fuel for up to 3.3 million liter. We managed to provide sodium hypochlorite for the wells and the supply also dosing pumps, repairing and maintenance for the water network and sewage network. All this allow us to be within, even below the minimum service, providing services for those population. As I said,
Sadi, we need to wrap up.
Yes.
Go ahead. With all due respect.
So this is just to tell you that the Palestinian Water Authority with partners, international partners, and local partners, we managed to have this emergency intervention through the emergency response plan. And we now have in 3 stages: intermediate action, emergency action for recovery, and intervention required during the reconstruction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sadi, very much for reporting from Gaza, also on behalf of the coastal municipalities water utility. And so we heard about the chronic challenges of water resources and water supply in Gaza. We heard about all the efforts and the strengthening of the system that was underway or was planned. We heard, of course, and we know about the collapse since the hostilities, which makes everything so much more difficult, including with the displacement of people. And we hear the call for more emergency response and remedial actions to restore and reconstruct. Sadi, thank you so much. It's hard to imagine the situations in Gaza, and so we're grateful for UNICEF to have prepared a video that focuses on the current situation of the population with regards to water and sanitation, as well as some of the emergency response that they are maintaining. We're grateful to UNICEF for that, and we know how much this video does not do justice to all they're trying to do. So grateful to David or Sophie for cueing the video.
As of today, more than 1.9 million people had to evacuate to south of Wadi Gaza, to the middle area and Khan Yunis city, lacking the basic wash services, including people installing their own tents in a scattered way and away from sewage municipal network, and also lacking safe drinking water and in a very bad hygienic conditions. It's estimated that more than 70% of the wash facilities in Gaza Strip has been damaged, including water reservoirs, water wells, sewage pumping stations, water and wastewater networks, and also wash facilities in institutions such as hospitals and schools.
اسمي سالي راد عزت البسينة، عمري 14 سنة، نازحة من بيت حنون. أول ما جينا هنا كان ركام، زبالة كثير، في حشرات، دود، وسخ. فيش مية ولا منظفات. المية كنا نروح 500 متر نروح نجيب مية، وأحيانا بنصف دور وما فيش بيطلع لنا دور. نقعد أسبوع كامل من غير ولا نتحمم ولا إشي. بعرف إنه المدرسة لازم ندرس فيها مش ننام فيها أو نستقر فيها. بدل ما أهتم بدراستي صرت أنا أهتم كيف نجيب مية، كيف نشرب، كيف نتحمم.
أنا اسمي فلسطين عبد ربه. إحنا من الشمال وكنا نازحين في رفح وجينا هنا. أنا معي ولدين وبنت. إحنا بننظف جلب الرمل. لما بدي أحمم ولادي بحممهم بلا صابون لأني بقدرش أجيب فلقة الصابونة. يعني عايشين في الرمل وفي الوساخة. ما في مجاري بالمرة هنا. إحنا بنطلعه.
As per Ministry of Health Statistics in the Gaza Strip, more than 120,000 cases of hepatitis A were declared. Also, more than 600,000 cases of watery diarrhea and also around 14,000 of bloody diarrhea were declared in the Gaza Strip. In addition to the polio outbreak, 1 case of polio were officially reported by the ministry. All of these diseases are strongly connected to the unsafe drinking water and also poor hygiene and sanitation services in the Gaza Strip.
أنا إيمان مسعود، دكتورة صيدلانية، أم لطفلين. من أول يوم فتحت الصيدلية كان في حالات نزلات معوية كثيرة. أنا يعني بخاف على نفسي وعلى أولادي من كثر الأمراض اللي منتشرة في المخيم، الأمراض الجلدية، الجدري، الجرب، الجمل. كل يوم بنحكي الحمد لله إنه خلص يوم من الصيف، قربنا على الخريف.
Since day one, UNICEF started responding to the needs of the people. UNICEF provides the necessary fuel to operate the sewage pumping stations, working desalination plants, water wells, and also water reservoirs. UNICEF managed to install more than 5,000 family pit latrine for the people in need, in addition to providing non-food items, including jerrycans, water buckets, and also hygiene kits. UNICEF facilitated the maintenance of 6 sewage pumping stations in Khan Yunis city and also the construction of septic tanks for the sewage drainage in one of the hospitals in Khan Yunis governorate.
أجت اليونيسيف وعينوا لنا شباب عشان ننظفوا المدرسة، صرنا أحسن. وجود المحطة خفف علينا كتير المعاناة. زي صرنا كل يوم نشرب مي. أنا نتيجة من المي كل يوم.
Advocacy is still needed for the entry of more humanitarian aid, especially fuel, spare parts, and heavy machinery for the wash sector. And also, more crucially, a ceasefire is needed to enable repair of the damaged wash infrastructure and for people to access wash services.
Thank you. Thank you, UNICEF, for sharing this video that was filmed in the very recent day, as I understand, and that gives us a glimpse into the field situation. Another speaker from the West Bank, so under very different circumstances than Gaza, is Mr. Rashid Saeed. He's the technical manager of water and wastewater operation for the Hebron municipality. Hebron is the second largest city on the West Bank and experiences what you will see or hear are crippling deficiency in access to service. Mr. Rashid Saeed, can you take over in 5 minutes? Over to you.
Yes, thank you very much for this chance for me. First of all, I'm Rashid Saeed from Hebron Municipality. I'd like to have a quick view about the situation in the West Bank cities, north and south. As you know, in the northern side of West Bank city, we have a big problem, which is suffering from the damaged networks caused by the Israeli soldiers in the northern cities. While in the southern here in Hebron and Bethlehem, the diminishing of water quantities from Mikrot makes it very difficult for us to work. As you know, simply we are managing a crisis and not working under normal circumstances. In the West Bank, you know, Hebron city is located in the south West Bank, cover nearly 7.75 square meter, population about 250,000. Hebron water network nearly covers 90% of Hebron with 22,000 subscribers for water. In West Bank, there is a land division to A, B, and C as agreements between Israelis and Palestinians. And nearly 18% is the Area A, which is administrative by Palestinian Authority totally, while Area B with 22% is PA administers only civil matters, and Area C, which is about 60%, is totally under the Israeli responsibility. In Hebron especially, there is also more divisions, which is H1 and H2 according to agreements here in Hebron. For that, we have nearly 1 to 2% of Hebron city is a closed area with no permits to work in. Need for coordination to achieve emergency maintenance there. Inside Hebron city, there's a lot of settlements with, and about 400 to 500 settlers living, and the area is cutting Hebron and cutting the continuity of the city. In Hebron also, we have two settlements in the eastern part, which is Giryat Arba'a and Kharsina, and they have nearly for the settlers about 300 liter per capita per day for them, and for the Palestinians in Hebron, I don't think it will reach 70 liter per capita per day. Water available for Hebron was usually in the summer nearly 21,000 cubic meters per day, and in winter time it reaches nearly 30,000 cubic meter per day, which means while we have the demand of Hebron is about 45,000 cubic meters. For that, we have a cycle for distributing water, which reaches now in this season, about 40 to 50 days in order to have 1 day of water supply. But we usually used to have it nearly 20 days as a circle. The only thing we can do here in order to have more quantities is to enhance the NRW, non-revenue water. Non-revenue water was about 48% 2 years ago, but now it is about 33, which means that we have reduced nearly 15 of it, and that saves 3,000 cubic meter daily. The first need we have is to have more quantities of water from Mikorot through BWA in order to achieve the demand of Hebron. Installing smart water meters also is a very need for us here in Hebron. Besides rehabilitation and replacement of the damaged existing networks with approximately length of nearly 11 kilometers to reduce background leakage. Upgrade and enhancement of existing network were needed, approximately to 26 kilometers to improve operational performance. Assessment of existing stopped wells. We have 2 stopped wells, and there is no permits from the Israelis to dig more in order to get water from these wells. That's what we need here in Hebron in order to enhance or to upgrade the water service, to be sure that we can serve all the habitants. That's here, and till now that's it here in Hebron. And we are now facing a big problem in this summer with the shortage of quantities we received. So the first thing, in order to have an equal distribution between all the citizens in Hebron, Palestinians and Jewish to have more quantities of water. And that's it. Thank you.
Pierre, you're muted.
Thank you. So thank you, Mr. Rashid Saeed, for this snapshot on the realities of operating the water and wastewater system in Hebron in a context of shared governance with the Israeli side, and all the complexity of the restrictions, the area separations, the limited access and the reducing access to supplies from Mekrot. But what I retain for everybody is that availability of water for the Palestinian parts of Hebron is down to, at best, to 1 day out of 20 days, and during the dry season down to 1 day over 40 to 45 days. So it's a very very damaging, very urgent situation, unsustainable. We're running a little late, so I will, since we do not have questions specifically for these panelists, I will jump into our third window, in which we're trying to add some official perspective on the situation. First, with a recorded speech by Minister Ghunaim, who is the head of the Palestinian Water Authority, and who will share the PWA's vision and response envisioned for this situation. That will be followed by comments, interventions by, on the part, UNICEF and the World Bank. So I would like to ask Sophie to please cue the recorded speech with English subtitles by Minister Ghunaim.
السيدات والسادة الحضور الكريم، مع حفظ الألقاب أسعد الله أوقاتكم جميعا. بداية أود أن أتقدم بالشكر لكل من البنك الدولي واليونيسيف على تنظيم هذه الجلسة ودعوتي للمشاركة فيها تحت عنوان يخبئ الكثير تحت طياته، ألا وهو الأمن المائي والسلام في فلسطين. فأساس هذا الموضوع أن الأمن المائي والسلام لن يتحققا إلا بزوال الاحتلال الذي يسيطر على الأرض وعلى ما في جوفها من موارد طبيعية بما فيها المائية. فلطالما كانت الحقوق المائية الفلسطينية هي قضية تقع في صلب مخططات الإسرائيلية لتقويض إقامة الدولة الفلسطينية المستقلة، وأن وفرة المياه كانت أحد الأسباب الرئيسية لاختيار الحركة الصهيونية لفلسطين كدولة لليهود في نهاية القرن التاسع عشر. وما تبع ذلك من نكبة عام 1948 وبعدها حرب ال67 حتى قامت إسرائيل بالسيطرة الكاملة على نهر الأردن وروافده وكذلك جميع الأحواض المائية الرئيسية على حساب الحقوق المائية الفلسطينية، في انتهاك صارخ لكل القوانين والأعراف الدولية، وهو ما يفسر اليوم أن ملف المياه أحد ملفات الحل النهائي والذي تستخدمه إسرائيل لتقويض حق الفلسطينيين في تقرير مصيرهم. فكيف لنا أن نتحدث عن موضوع السلام في ظل وجود احتلال يمعن في ارتكاب جرائمه، كما يحصل اليوم مع شعبنا في قطاع غزة الذي يتعرض لأبشع الجرائم اللا إنسانية؟ راح ضحيتها حتى الآن أكثر من 140,000 من الأبرياء بين شهيد وجريح، غالبيتهم من الأطفال والنساء والشيوخ، إضافة إلى ما قام ويقوم به الاحتلال من وقف لجميع الخدمات الأساسية على رأسها المياه، منع المساعدات الإنسانية، وتدمير البنية التحتية بما فيها المائية، حتى وصلت حصة الفرد في غزة إلى 5 لترات في اليوم، وهو أقل بكثير من الحد الأدنى للبقاء على الحياة والمحدد ب 15 لتر للفرد في اليوم. وكل ذلك يتم دون أدنى اكتراث لأي نوع من المساءلة أو المحاسبة أمام مشاهد أطفال ونساء في طوابير طويلة تعاني الأمرين للوصول للقليل من المياه لسد عطشهم. والمشهد لا يقتصر على غزة فقط، ففي الضفة الغربية يسيطر الاحتلال على أكثر من 85% من مصادر المياه، حيث يقدر معدل حصة الفرد فيها 83 لتر في اليوم، أي أقل بكثير من الحد الأدنى الموصى به عالميا 120 لتر للفرد في اليوم. في حين نجد أن المستوطن غير الشرعي يحصل على أكثر من 400 لتر في اليوم. وأيضا إضافة إلى ذلك ينتهج الاحتلال سياساته المتواصلة سواء في إعاقة تطوير الخدمات للتجمعات الفلسطينية وتخفيض كميات المياه المزودة للمحافظات في كل صيف، ومؤخرا ومع كل اقتحام للمدن والقرى والمخيمات الفلسطينية يقوم بتجريف البنية التحتية بما فيها البنية التحتية المائية. أما فيما يتعلق بالاتفاقيات المائية بين الطرفين فقد تم التوقيع على اتفاقية أوسلو كما تعلمون في عام 1995، حيث تناولت المادة 40 من تلك الاتفاقية تحصيص موارد المياه لمدة 5 سنوات فقط، وكان من المفترض أن يتم حل قضية المياه كجزء من اتفاقية الحل النهائي بين الطرفين. أيضا ومنذ توقيع هذه الاتفاقية وحتى يومنا هذا لم يحصل الشعب الفلسطيني حتى على الكميات المتفق عليها في حينه ولا الكميات الإضافية التي كانت مقررة ضمن الاتفاقية في ذلك الوقت. كل ذلك بسبب القيود التي تفرضها إسرائيل وما زالت، سواء من خلال لجنة المياه المشتركة أو الإدارة المدنية الإسرائيلية، والتي تعيق جهود سلطة المياه في إقامة المشاريع الاستراتيجية في الوقت الذي تقوم فيه إسرائيل وبشكل غير شرعي بمواصلة تنفيذ مخططات البنية التحتية الضخمة في الضفة الغربية لتزويد المستوطنات بالمياه على مدار 24 ساعة. ونضيف إلى ذلك أن الجانب الإسرائيلي لا يلتزم ولا يستجيب لتلبية الطلب المتنامي على المياه للفلسطينيين. وعلى سبيل المثال الاتفاق المبدئي أثناء اجتماع HLC في العام 22 بالشراء كان مفروض من 20 ل 30 مليون متر مكعب من المياه الإضافية وأن يتم حفر 23 بئرا. لم يحصل شيء في هذا الخصوص ولم يحصل للفلسطينيين حتى اليوم منها إلا على حفر بئر واحد فقط. فالمخطط الإسرائيلي إذن هو إبقاء الحكومة الفلسطينية مشتري ومستهلك للمياه بالسعر والكميات التي تفرضها بقرارات أحادية الجانب الحكومة الإسرائيلية. الأمر هذا أمر خطير جدا وله أبعاد سياسية واقتصادية كبيرة، ولكن على الرغم من ذلك وعلى الرغم من كل العقبات الصعبة التي يفرضها الاحتلال ودعما لصمود المواطن الفلسطيني على أرضه، تواصل سلطة المياه وبدعم الحكومة الفلسطينية ومن شركائنا في الدول المانحة والمؤسسات الدولية بذل الجهود الحثيثة لتطوير البنية التحتية للمياه والصرف الصحي، تحسين الخدمات المقدمة للمواطنين، توفير مصادر مياه غير تقليدية من خلال إنشاء محطات تحلية ومحطات معالجة، إضافة إلى تحقيق الحوكمة الرشيدة من خلال برنامج الإصلاح الذي نقوده، حيث تم تنفيذ العديد من البرامج والمشاريع الاستراتيجية في الضفة وقطاع غزة من عام 2015 لعام 2023 بقيمة تقارب $1.5 مليار، والتي تصب أيضا في تحقيق هذه الغايات. ولكن منذ اليوم الأول للعدوان ونتيجة الضغط على الجانب الإسرائيلي تم إعادة فتح وصلات المياه التي كانت مدمرة مع البنية التحتية الخاصة بها. كما واصلت طواقمنا العمل في ظروف استثنائية وصعبة في جميع أنحاء القطاع تحت القصف وتحت النار رغم المخاطر وقلة الإمكانيات. تم تنفيذ العديد من التدخلات وأعمال الصيانة التي أسهمت في توفير ما أمكن من المياه خلال هذه المرحلة الصعبة، إضافة إلى توفير الوقود لتشغيل مرافق المياه الأساسية من آبار ومحطات ضخ الصرف الصحي. وتم إعداد مؤخرا تقرير لتقييم الأضرار التي لحقت بعدد من المرافق المائية وخاصة في منطقة المحافظة الوسطى ومحافظة خان يونس. ولا ننسى أن سلطة المياه أيضا بالتعاون مع البنك الدولي والمؤسسات الدولية قامت بإعداد خطة الاستجابة للطوارئ، والتي تحدد الأولويات والتدخلات اللازمة خلال المراحل المختلفة من الآن حتى بعد وقف إطلاق النار وبعد أن يتم إزالة الركام. كما تم توفير جزء من التمويل اللازم لتنفيذ هذه الخطة من البنك الدولي والاتحاد الأوروبي. إن هذه المرحلة الصعبة تتطلب ضرورة الضغط على إسرائيل للوقف الفوري لإطلاق النار وإدخال المساعدات الإنسانية، المساهمة الفاعلة في تنفيذ خطة الاستجابة للطوارئ في قطاع المياه في قطاع غزة، ومن جانبنا سنقوم بالتنسيق لإدارة التمويل مع الجهات المانحة والمؤسسات الدولية بما يضمن كفاءة وسرعة الإنجاز. ولكن إذا بدنا نعود لموضوع وعنوان هذه الجلسة المياه من أجل السلام، فإن مطالبنا تتلخص أولا في الضغط على إسرائيل لوقف جميع السياسات المائية الإسرائيلية العنصرية والانصياع للقوانين والمعاهدات الدولية ذات العلاقة. كذلك جميع شركائنا مطالبين بتقديم الدعم لتنفيذ البرامج والمشاريع المنبثقة عن الخطة الاستراتيجية لسلطة المياه والهادفة إلى تطوير خدمات المياه والصرف الصحي وإصلاح القطاع. وبالنهاية احنا بنأكد أن الأهم من كل هذا الكلام هو المعالجة الجذرية للسبب الرئيسي لعدم إحلال السلام والتوتر الموجود دائما في المنطقة، والمتمثل هذا المطلب بإنهاء الاحتلال الإسرائيلي على جميع المناطق الفلسطينية وإقامة الدولة الفلسطينية المستقلة وعاصمتها القدس. ولا يسعني الآن إلا أن أجدد شكري للقائمين على هذا الجهد الكبير متطلعا لتحقيق هدفنا المشترك في خدمة حاضر ومستقبل أجيالنا، ومع جزيل الشكر.
So, thank you. We thank Minister Gonaim for this comprehensive historic background and perspective and call for action and change and support as seen from the Palestinian Water Authority. Allow me to jump right away in welcoming Madame Jean Gao, who's the special representative for UNICEF in Palestine, and who will share her reaction and comments and outlook on the water situation for the West Bank and Gaza. Madame Gao, please, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm currently in Gaza, so I will turn off my camera to maximize the audio. If not, you will not listen to me. So thank you. Let me switch it off now that I greet you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great to be at this forum to discuss the important topic of water, security, and peace in Palestine. Water plays such an essential role in the everyday lives and environment of all people, adults and children alike, and hence plays a crucial role to promote peace. Water in Palestine, just like many countries in the world, is transboundary and has potential to cause social unrest and spark conflict. Access to water, sanitation, and proper hygiene, usually referred to as WASH, is essential to survival and health of all children and a prerequisite for the realization of other human rights. Safe water is more critical for children, and it means many children are at risk of waterborne disease such as dysentery, polio, typhoid. Every day they take a sip. Human rights do not exist independently. Access to water in the state of Palestine has been and continues to pose a challenge in both Gaza and the West Bank, and climatic factors such as salinity intrusion. The above background that the humanitarian situation in the state of Palestine following the event of the 7th of October 2024 in Israel has led to a multitude of challenges impacting the well-being and peace of the population, continues to disrupt peaceful coexistence in the already vulnerable situation of communities in the state of Palestine. In Gaza, destruction and damage to the water system, current water production capacity has dropped significantly, leading to struggles among displaced communities for their critical service. Inadequate availability of water among the displaced has forced people to resort to unsafe water sources with uncontrolled water quality, significantly increasing the risk of waterborne diseases, especially among children. Reports in Gaza indicate increasing rates of acute water diarrhea, acute jaundice syndrome, and recently we have reported the outbreak of polio in the Gaza Strip which we are planning currently a campaign that will start on the 31st of August. In West Bank, it is more about water shortages, especially during the summer, which often leads to inequitable access to safe water and hence often creates disharmony. Empty water tanks are not uncommon in some locations. Since UNICEF started work in the state of Palestine, water access for communities in both Gaza Strip and West Bank, but requirements in the sector are immense and require joint efforts by all. Following the recent conflict in Gaza Strip, UNICEF is using the following strategies to respond to the water needs of the people affected by the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Increasing water production by supporting the running of the main sources of water. Supporting emergency quick repairs and maintenance of pipelines and water system, including supply of spare parts to increase water production and reduce excessive leakage. Water trucking, installation of small and mobile water desalination units powered by solar and generators. Supporting procurement of water treatment chemicals. Despite UNICEF efforts, as highlighted above, the support is still far below what is required to meet the needs of the people affected by the conflict in Gaza. To use water to promote peace in the state of Palestine, UNICEF suggests the following: transboundary workshop on water with neighboring countries to discuss equitable access to water. This will be crucial, especially in the West Bank, where there is more shortage of water, especially in summer. Increase advocacy to allow into Gaza dual-use materials and supplies. Establish restriction-free supply chains, which would in turn facilitate proper emergency, recovery, and reconstruction interventions during and after the conflict. A ceasefire, which will facilitate dignified access to humanitarian wash services by IDPs and consequently allow to recovery and reconstruction of water service and facilities. I thank you.
Thank you, Jean. We very much welcome the UNICEF contribution to this situation. And thank you for this summary and vision and recommendations. We're running out of time. I'm going to turn over directly to Stefan Emblad, Country Director for the World Bank over West Bank and Gaza. Stefan, you have about 4 minutes. Over to you.
Thanks very much, Pierre, and thanks to SIWI, UNICEF, and colleagues for pulling this important session together, and also to the audience for insightful questions. I've been following a little bit in the chat as well. In beginning, let me also acknowledge just the immense suffering of the Gazans that was well portrayed in the video. As well as the difficulties that Palestinians in the West Bank face. I'd also like to acknowledge the work of Jean and her colleagues at UNICEF that are implementing, together with others in the humanitarian efforts, some of the World Bank financing since the war broke out under very difficult and dangerous conditions. To pick up a little bit where Jean left off, I think we've heard a lot on just the immense difficulties in the wash sector and the implication it has. So I won't repeat a lot of that, or at least not the detail of it. But I do think, as Jean was saying, that water in West Bank and Gaza is often a flashpoint in the broader struggle. But it could potentially be a beacon of hope as well. Water is a shared resource, a fundamental human right, and as such could be a potential catalyst for peace if the goodwill and the intentions are there, a bridge that can unite rather than divide. As we heard, the lack of daily access to clean and safe water affects thousands of Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank, shaping the health, livelihoods, and dignity, in fact, of entire communities. And the ongoing conflict in Gaza has caused massive loss of life, forced displacement, and damages to water infrastructure at an unprecedented scale and speed. And most of the remaining assets, as we heard, are non-functional due to fuel shortages, insecurity in operational areas, and the impacts of the conflict on human resources. I won't repeat the numbers of just the shockingly low numbers of liters available for people per day and how they compare to guidelines. But just to say that the health implications are severe and rising, as we've heard, due to the limited access to clean water and sanitation. In that regard, we're very grateful both to the Palestinian Water Authority and UNICEF under one of our financed projects in Gaza to supply emergency funding and to try to combat the resurgence of polio. We heard the minister say that all parties should focus on proposals that foster cooperation and prioritize sustainable solutions for water security. And we believe that this includes the need to establish a new mechanism for cooperation to streamline and accelerate the process of clearance and approvals for investments, repairs, and operations and maintenance of water infrastructure. The current 30-year-old mechanism is just no longer effective. For the Palestinian Authority, we think that the sector to develop needs to embrace innovation and technology. Implementing smart water management systems is critical to improving efficiency and transparency in water distribution. In that vein, the Water Authority has prepared and updated a strategic water sector plan, which you may have seen has been discussed in the chat. The implementation of it has been somewhat of a challenge. And now, following the outbreak of hostilities, there's been a sector emergency and recovery plan that's been pulled together. And that could benefit millions of people, but it will require hundreds of millions of dollars. And though some funds have been allocated for immediate response, such as improving the water supply and sanitation services via UN agencies, these efforts are just insufficient given the scale of the needs that we've seen described during today's session. So in that regard, I really urge all development partners to continue their efforts to secure the necessary funds for both immediate response and long-term recovery and reconstruction. I also encourage all development partners to join the efforts to support the aforementioned emergency response plan. We've also been collaborating with the Palestinian Authority on the preparation of the sector response strategy as part of something called the Conflict Recovery Framework, which looks towards the day that hostilities cease and it will be possible to return to reconstruction and development activities in Gaza. In that regard, there's an early focus on the resumption of basic services to the people of Gaza, where access to water is obviously a key component. This work needs very much to be Palestinian-led, but also requires meaningful contributions from both parties and strong political and financial support from the international community. So just in summary, if I may, the suggested action for the stakeholders here would be for the Palestinian Authority to continue to improve the governance in the water sector, enhance regulatory frameworks, and invest in local water infrastructure, as well as to seek improved shared water governance with Israeli counterparts towards a more sustainable and equitable access to these resources. For Israel, we urge easing restrictions on access to resources, supporting joint projects that benefit both sides, and increasing cooperation on transboundary water management. I should add that this is very much specific to the water sector. Obviously, an end to the active hostilities is a prerequisite for a lot of things that we're all hoping for will take place. Finally, for the international community, we urgently need sustained financial and technical support for water projects, in this region and encourage the international bodies to facilitate dialogue and agreements on water rights and resource sharing. And with that, Pierre, let me turn it back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Stefan. Thank you, Minister. And thank you, Jean, for your thoughtful remarks, perspective, advice. We have a very short time before we're cut off, and I will simply thank all participants, all contributors to this session. We hope that the information shared in this session will help everyone realize the unsustainability of the current conflict-driven water management and scarcity affecting the Palestinian people. We hope this will also help mobilize goodwill and initiatives on all sides and to propose and implement change. Thank you again to SIWI for hosting this session, and for the organizers, the organizing team across PWA, World Bank, UNICEF, led by our colleague Sana Al-Nimr. Again, thank you, and over to Sophie.